dark shadows and in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast, we are the brave and bold. Perhaps a sword looks more like a magical instrument than a spade, but both are made of iron, which cleaves the earth or the body of earth. When in the Bhagavad Gita, the evident intention is to make it clear that Shri Krishna did not appear in a body of earth or a physical body. One of the images used to express this meaning is, weapons cleave him not. Originally, the sword and the spade had the same meaning, compared the Spanish espada to the French épée, the sword. A later meaning of spade became that as the agricultural tool. In one way, viz. As a physical instrument, the emblem of executive power. The sword has much the same meaning as the wand or the club. Both are instruments of command, compelling obedience. The difference lies in the nature of the element used. Wands compel by reason, intelligence, understanding, moral force. Swords enforce obedience to the laws of earth. Material necessities, actual resistance. This means also that the wands open moral, intellectual, and reasonable possibilities, and swords give material opportunities. Both of these suits start from the first house of Aries, as will be worked out further hereafter, the one leading up to the beginning of intelligence, the other from the beginning of activity in matter. The swords wound or even kill. They sever the rotten limb from the otherwise healthy body. For the reason the sword became the symbol of discrimination between practical usefulness and practical uselessness. From this, practical ideas of right and wrong, good and evil spring into being. To wound and to kill is to destroy partially or wholly a body of earth. This must not be regretted, as Shri Krishna explains, because it is only destroying Maya, misleading appearances that which is an inner reality can never be killed in itself, in its life itself. So the swords may mean destruction to some form of the body, formula, or limited existence. They may inflict pain, detriment, loss, sorrow upon bodily existence and material possessions or conditions. On the other hand, they may mean renovation, birth, and rebirth, the removing of obstacles, a clearance of the way and of the field of action. As the spade clears and turns the soil of the garden for a new sowing, so Jesus might well say, I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. And even so, where the I or self manifests in the world of outer phenomenon, it will be obligated to take either the sword or the spade in hand to kill our wrongs, illusions, obstacles, or turn the soil for a new sowing. Sometimes it may have to cut away what is not wanted in order to keep the rest pure and straight and healthy. Just as the sculptor works on the marble, so also sorrow and pain will be inflicted upon the body of earth so long as the hand of the heavenly sculptor is upon it. Whew, here we go.
The Abracast. Occult. History. Conspiracy. and violence.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Abercast. I'm John Towers. I'll be your dealer for the evening. I'll be here representing the house for this evening. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for the support and following this. It's becoming a long fucking thing, right? So I have a good picture of what this whole tarot card series is going to look like from here on out. So we had the few episodes dealing with like the mechanics of the cards, and then we're going to continue on tonight with the suit of swords, and the week after or the month after we're going to do the pentacles, and then after that they're going to be 3 more episodes dealing with the septenaries of the major arcana. And then I think that we're going to be able to put the tarot cards to bed for a little bit. So I'm going to get right in here. I'm just going to get going right along here. So thank you guys very much again for tuning in. I hope you guys are digging all this tarot card business, and let's go. We're using the same books as we used for the last 2 episodes. And I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. Okay, so first, I'd like to invite you guys, if you're playing along at home, to go ahead and fill your jar, mix up your weapon of mass distraction. And that's a good gin jihad. Woo! All of a sudden. So we're talking about the cards. I have my cards here right here so I can look at them. The King of Swords, tradition, a man of the law or robe, counselor, senator, businessman, doctor, etc. Whatsoever arises out of the idea of judgment and all its concessions, power, authority, command, militant intelligence. Reversed, the card means bad intentions, evil, perseverity, perfidy, and cruelty. The king is of the suit of earth, coming out of the house of Aries. Aries, holla holla. I don't know if you guys could tell I'm an Aries. First house or ascendant whatsoever, we may set of the reversed side or weaker case of this card. The king is a king. It always denotes a higher accord, someone or something of a principal value and rank, the king of the Martian and Saturnian elements. Naturally is the king of matter and of war. Also, I'm sorry, I have a cough. I'm struggling to get through it. I'm exhausted. I don't know. I mean, like, you know how you feel when you get done listening to Bat Out of Hell? Like, that's how I fucking feel right now. Oh, okay, back to, I'm sorry. Also, he who wins war and conducts the battle of earthly interests. It denotes the domination and rulership of this element, consequently the military chief. This, by the way, we are astonished and not to find mentioned by tradition, which mentions the man of the law, the lawyer, the advocate, or the judge who rules or guides worldly strife by contention. As the ruler of the ascended, the card may certainly mean any person heading a cycle of material activity and before all a prisoner on this plane, an independent man living in his own means, while material integrity is implicit. Duplicity, doubt, double dealing, backstabbing, backbiting, or uncertainty are definitely excluded. It indicates material certainty and severity, whether benefic or malefic from a personal point of view, healthy or rude, even cruel. But we fail to see what it has to do with perseverity unless the meaning by the overruling of everything else, the higher by the material power and the misuses of the latter. This card means an empathetic yes. All right. The conclusion, general, captain, military chief, worldly authority, chief or capitan in a branch of activity, a man of law, power, command. we should do like a millennial tarot card set, and this card can be toxic masculinity. The Queen of Swords. Yeah, she's cool. She's dressed like a superhero. I thought those were boobs at the bottom of her chair there, but it's a butterfly. I was like, what a weird set of boobs. Tradition is widowhood, female sadness, absence, sterility, poverty, vacancy, unemployment, mourning, separation. Reversed, it's bad whammon. Malice, bigotry, prudishness, hypocrisy, artifice, and deceit. The female rulership of the element of earth on the house of Taurus, in which the moon is exalted and the womanhood eternal is contained. The house of money in the worldly affairs. So this card must mean either woman ruling by matter, material, or magnetic attraction, purely physical charm, or ruled by material elements herself. This latter may be seen as ruled by the desire of luxury and money, or as overpowered by material difficulties, weighed down under the burden of the material world. A woman of Saturnian or Martian qualities is seldom charming unless in a purely physical or sexual way. There may be higher virtues, however, which in this case will be developed by suffering, such as chastity, severity, continence, from which it will be easily seen that sterility, privation, and mourning may derive personally. Astrologically, the Martian and Saturnian qualities are seldom found to be benefic for women, being very often signs of an unpleasant character or an injured reputation. On the other hand, this card may be a woman under affliction and severed from her natural protector or protection. This is where the widow part comes in. Divorced, separated, widowed, though not the unmarried. On the other hand, we have to see that this card, the woman who is paid for her love. And the fact that women cost money, in fact, of more occult significance than the world at large understands. It is indicated in the commandment of Jehovah that man should till the soil. This is a Taurus. After the loss of the paradisical state, the state of paradise. So this card has to do with the material necessity of married life. You got to have a place to park it, guys. You got to have a place to park it. With pleasantry and husbandry, the economical exploitation, aspect, it may indicate art in the general and sometimes wealth after a studious struggle and toil. Here we see suffering, afflicted women, widowed, divorced, separated, a woman of lower sort of character, a hateful, spiteful. It just says paid love. It really should say hooer. The deception in love, material stress, heavy expenses, burdening, also exploitation, peasantry, the possibility of wealth after enduring toil. In many cases, it means sterility. Only strong characters can stand this card. To the weak character, it is full of menace and may cause grief, mourning, failure in the face of hardship of life and unemployment. It may mean the absence of women where she is wished for or desired. It warns against the evil influences of women. So this is the evil stepmother card. The Knight of Swords. A military man, an officer, the master of the sword, master of fencing, a warrior, dispute, war, duel, combat, attacks as well as defense, opposition, destruction, ruin, hatred, etc. But also skill, bravery, and capacity. Reversed, it's incapacity, imprudence, foolishness, impertinence, stupidity, crooked tricks. Finally, this element on the 4th and on the 12th houses. On account of the former, we find, of course, the armed man under the rule of the emperor. This is the Darth Vader card, bros. The military man, soldier, but rather the professional, formerly the hired troops than the militia, which will rather fall under the same house as the cops, and indicated by the Page of Swords. Another significance of this card is that of painful memories, suffering by accident, by ancient wrongs. In fact, war is, in all cases, be it private or collective, the phenomenon of the outbreak of some ancient wrong or evil. The wrong of oppression on one side, of the evil of desire, overflowing force. Your hatred flows through you. On the other, all right, so the Knight of Swords must bear the significance of the bearer of weapons which avenge wrongs or severe attacks. The 4th house calls the home and the family and the father in particular. And the card may well denote something in the nature of avenging family feuds, or the honor of the family or the father. Badly aspected, it may mean the opposition against the power of the father or the emperor. Revolution, which is quite in the line of the grumbling and malcontent nature of the Cancerian of the lower type. It is, however, to be expected that such opposition will be very much hidden, dark in the background, not open or very loyal on the account of its relation to the 12th house. This card may also mean a surgeon in operations performed by him, and in the lower types or weaker cases, fraud and destruction of organisms. Whatever these may be, it may further relate here to all sorts of bad passions, to the degrees of hated incapacity. It's a military man, a man of arms, avenging family and other feuds and wrongs. Painful memories, distress in the family, afflictions, yada yada yada, surgeon, Sith Lord, insurrection, war, combat. Imprudence. I find your lack of faith disturbing. The Page of Swords. He's the overseer, the artist, learned man, or a spy, an indiscreet person who will eventually pry into the secrets. Secret Service, vigilance, examination, calculations, and speculation. A note, observation, reversed the more evil side of those qualities. It's like the government. The unforeseen, sudden, surprising improvisation, acting or speaking without due preparation. The Martian and Saturnian elements in the third house and on the 11th. It is very remarkable that the first series of meanings in this case hint at the third house, while the so-called reversed meanings bear all the characteristics of the Uranian 11th house. Suddenly, suddenness, surprise, etc. The element in the house of air, Gemini, and Aquarius must, of course, denote either intellectual facts or concrete results or intelligence. The later may be called proof or outcome or exact knowledge. The knowledge by facts may be the fruit of an elementary school curriculum of journalism, of spying, etc. But it is justly indicated by tradition that the Martian or Saturnian Gemini man is a specialist in unlawful knowledge or knowledge gathered at the cost of much trouble and effort. It may be also knowledge gathered later in life. University extension, exact intellectual results may appear as remarks, observations, notes, etc. But when put in the negative, there may be an investigation, examination, etc. All these are truly the effects of Gemini. There are, moreover, the personalities representing the facts. On the accounts of the 11th house, we shall have to note the same sort of result, but more or less reciprocal and sudden, whereas Uranus, lord of this house, accelerates the energy of Mars, the element, but is too apt to destroy the Saturnian vibrations, or at least counteract them. It is true, therefore, that this card may represent speaking and acting without sufficient preparation and without dogmatic or very formal outlines. Improvisation, tradition was very correct in this. It could not know that this page on the account of its 11th house relation will represent the railway, the tramway, a bus conductor, as well as the constable regulating traffic. Also, the warnings are the same. The conclusion is results of exact studies, knowledge, observations, warnings, indications, examinations, inspections, investigations, inspectors, constables, police officers, spies, detectives, and examiners, a dilettante, one who will surprise by his daring, but is not well prepared in his speech or acting. In weak cases, it's sudden, rather unexpected and surprising events or effects. He looks like a bit of a dandy on this card, by the way. I like his boots, though. I love your suit. The Ace of Swords. Extreme or excessive triumph, force. It is a card of great force. In love as well as in hatred. Vehemency, fury, etc. limits, extremity, frontier, confinement, reversed its conception, pregnancy, childbirth, production, enlarging, and augmentation. This is the first step of the element of earth coming on the first house or ascendant. Of course, this has to do with the beginning, a strong outpouring force, an impulse, and a material one too, a positive activity on the material plane. It's typically masculine. It's just a hand gripping a giant sword with a crown on top of it. I mean, it looks pretty masculine. Perhaps the most of all. There is no negotiation possible with it. It is emphatically yes or no. It's just like the girl in Paradise by the Dashboard Lights. What's it going to be, boy? Yes or no? One of the primary expressions of the masculine is fructification, and the male action is indicated by this card. For the same reason, it means germ, seed. It's natural consequence of conception and childbirth. The ace indicating here also that the ascendant in everything, this card means the actual beginning in the material execution, which is at the same time may cut short something else. It may mean decapitation. What? Might it mean castration? I don't know. Or any form of execution, judicial execution, state execution. It signifies a course of decision, the end of an uncertainty or twilight. It is the fresh starting point in matter. Alia jacata est. And so it may as well mean strong demand and appeal. There is courage in it. It's firm initiative. It may cause pain and affliction and annihilates doubt, its greatest torture. This conclusion is initiative, force, toxic masculinity, masculine activity, seed, germs, commencement in matter, decision, starting point, emphasis, execution, affliction, pain, but annihilation of doubt and uncertainty, courage, firmness, and integrity. It may denote greater passion or intense enmity, fury or vehemence. Vehemence? I like this card, though. I like that one. The Two of Swords, if you recall, this is one of the cards I'm missing from my deck. I think it's framed, hanging up in my kitchen, actually. But it's of a blindfolded chick with two swords in her hand. I mean, it's really cool. I've talked about this before. In my kitchen are a bunch of sword cards. In my bathroom, there's a bunch of cup cards. They're bathroom jokes. They're kitchen jokes. You know, you got cutlery. Anyhow. The tradition here is friendship, attachment, affliction, intimacy, affinity, tenderness, attraction, etc. The concord in a state of arms. Reversed, it's falsity, imposture, it's lies, it's duplicity, it's bad faith, it's deception, and it's superficality. I don't know what that word means. I'm afraid it's something about poop. The element earth on the second house by virtue of the Venusian qualities of the Taurus house. The Saturn and Martian element, as we will easily be understood, leads up to the magnetic infinity of the houses, consequently to intimacy, attraction, affection, etc. But the idea of friendship is different. and not in this card. It denotes also artistic appreciation founded on the perfect functioning of the senses. A taste for art will be born from this and the exact knowledge of prices and values. So what's that game show where you go and you guess the prices? This is the card you want if you're going on that game show. It is the card which means quality and essential virtue. Therefore, it has been rendered as falsehood when reversed. When the innate virtue is wanting. Now, in a weak case, this card will certainly denote sensuality and lazy, luxurious habits, which will be found accompanied in many instances by the desire for money. For the rest, we see in such cases the possibility of stupid resistance, dullness, cruelty, relentlessness, the opposition and recreation, passive obstruction, perhaps silent, unforgiving hatred. But in another aspect, it means the will to cultivate the soil. It is literally as well as the figurative sense. It's a latent force, magnetism, the principle of art, artistic appreciation, quality, virtue, attraction, affinity, intimacy, when badly aspected, cruelty, unforgiven, hatred, passive obstruction, etc. All right, so we're going to move on here. Here, let's do this, and then we'll move on. The Three of Swords. Departure, absence, rapture, delay, division, removal, being far away. Reversed, its mental worries, troubles, and even alienation. The element of earth in the third house acts in a way of the mind and mental process and must appear as troubles, etc. because it gives the feeling of the mind being burdened, which might easily go as far as oppression. If the burden becomes too heavy, either the body or the soul may suffer severely, and pain, affliction, or mental aberration may ensue. This card must generally mean bad news too, the message which brings news to the affliction. It may be corrective too, as to say a volatile imagination. It will in most cases denote some sickness as a result of the pressure or oppressed feelings in the mind or in circumstances in general. It may be the result of worrying. The House of Gemini also suggests some suffering on account of distance, being separated, being far from one another, and a oppressed mind which cannot have its way. May easily denote the spiritual connection of a nun, of someone who takes refuge within the precincts of a monastery. In this case, however, the motives are not the more elevated or exalted order. There is spitefulness, vexation, bitterness on account of unrealized hopes, a want of idealism. So this does not indicate the idealistic type of monasticism. This card typifies the worries of a lesser sort of mind, also small talk, evil, the thought, the wrestling of the inferior mind with matter, and all that may be expected from it. I was about to say that this card is like 1984. It's like Winston from 1984. But all that stuff at the bottom doesn't really fit. The Four of Swords, which is a cool card because it's like I don't know what they're called. It's like a tombstone. It's like a coffin or something. But they have like a sculpture of the dude on it, and he's laying there with his arms crossed, and he's like a sculpture of a dead guy on a coffin lid, basically. And there are these three swords pointed down at him, and then underneath him, carved on the box, is the fourth sword. And it's interesting. I never gave much thought to the stained glass window. Maybe I should have. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We'll get into it. Solitude, retreat, hermitage, exile, isolation, uninhibited condition, abandonment, tomb and coffin, reversed its economy, good conduct, circumspection. I bet you thought I was going to say circumcision. Wise administration, testament, avarice, household savings, order, etc. The element of earth on the fourth house, the house of the home and the sign of Cancer. This immediately explains why this card has been said to stand for economy, savings, even avarice, the household affairs, as well as for many things in connection with the end of life. Since the fourth house in the horoscope relates to the end of life and to the inner side of life, as long as this lasts. Tradition is once more correct in this case when it enumerates concord, harmony, etc. amongst the synonyms of this card. However, there are some discrepancies because the only thing that can be meant here is repose, or the condition of rest as that of the grave, in which external differences are lost. So taken in the strictly etymological sense of the word concord, etc., have nothing to do with it. If in any case this card should relate to business, it certainly does not mean that anything like accord has been reached, but the one of the parties retires or takes his proposals back. It may also relate to the condition of the soul, in which one harvests the result of the material life in the world, whether spiritually by meditation or materially by economy. In any case, it points to the stillness and the heavy condition of the mind, further to the tendency of collecting or gathering. Moving along, we got the Five of Swords. You got this, I don't know, jokey looking character here, picking up a bunch of swords, and there's some crying people in the background. He's got some good boots too, man. I need to get some of these, I don't know, what do you call them? Like pirate boots? You know, in the comic books, Captain America has those big floppy fold down boots. Like, maybe I should fucking get some of those. Why would anyone even invent those? What's the mechanism of the floppiness? Loss, dishonor, degradation, defeat, ruin, reversal of fortune, wronging, bad luck, destruction. Reversed, it's much the same. Burial is also said to represent a thief and theft, corruption, seduction, plagues, and all that is hideous and horrible. The element of earth, when it is influenced of Mars and of Saturn in the fifth house, ruling the heart, cannot be very favorable in the ordinary sense of the word. And it is certain to lead to a feeling of being wronged by the world and inner bitterness and impotence, which hinders enterprise and business. So these will suffer. And in the heart itself, being of precisely the opposite nature, will suffer. And finding things awkward, horrible, or horrendous in the same way, this card must indicate affliction of honor, which is ruled by the sun. Moreover, as from the heart are the issues of life, this card may indicate vice and a bad use of the inner or spiritual forces. Still, there is another possibility, and it is given by Mr. Waite when he says that this card's image signifies a man who is master of the field. So he may be, if the inner force is great enough to conquer the afflictions which assail him. In other words, it needs not be the card of absolute defeat, for there may well be good result. But nevertheless, it denotes serious difficulty in a critical moment of period in a critical moment or period in life, which the querent or someone to whom it relates is threatened with the above mentioned sad effects. This is another bummer looking card. And I don't know how that boat isn't sinking. It's got all those swords stuck in it. The 6 of Swords. Route, way, path, envoy, journey by water, immigration, manner, expedient, reversed its proclamation, declaration, publication, avowal, knowledge, charter, constitution, bill, ordinance, revelation. The element of earth in the 6th house and the Virgo particulars. My old man's a Virgo. And whenever he talks about other Virgos, he goes, Virgo. So it's like if you're talking to him and you're like, hey, did you see that new Jack Black movie? I mean, Jack Black really used to be funny, but now he's just turning out a bunch of bullshit. My old man's ears will perk up and he'll look at you and he'll go, Jack Black? Virgo. Particulars expressed in earth becomes the ways that carry the message from the center, the heart, to the parts of the system. So it is the nervous system and the arterial system in the animal and human body. Thus, it must be the way or path leading out into the world from our house or our living space. This explains the tradition about the envoy and immigration, although the latter is somewhat far-fetched, and not every instance will the way lead so far as that, nor the path will be trodden until we meet the proposal of love. But it is true, and the effects of that which this card represents may go far in the general signifies the message in the sphere of matter. This is Mercury is the lord of this house. The message materialized. And this explains why tradition says it means apparition or publication, constitution, etc. It is quite correct therein. The message is conveyed by means of the way, the path, the cancellation, etc. May Shai Halud clear the path before you. It is quite correct therein. Oh wait, I already read that part. And it appears in some effect or another, so it may even be a vision of materialization from the other side. It may also, however, be the passing and over to that side, the crossing. This is interesting. I never put this together. The crossing of the river Styx, which seems to be indicated by the picture of this card. The cusp of the 7th house in the horoscope is the end. Is the same way as the ascendant is the beginning. Through tradition has not rendered it so. This card must in many instances have the significance of passing away. Nice. I didn't put that together. Here we have another fuck stealing a bunch of swords, it looks like. The Seven of Swords. Swords. Hope, wish, design, will, taste, fantasy. That's almost, we could just run those all together and make a sentence. Another version is also quarreling, a plan that may fail, reverses good counsel, advice, helpful warnings, news, announcements, consultations, etc. The element earth in the seventh house indicates the actual and material union of the self and the not self in the organism as a material building. In this we have to see the accomplishment or the attainment of self, that which the self wishes to join. Since the seventh house represents the opponent as well, there may be something like quarreling in this card, attempt to reach an agreement with an opponent. This will be done in a practical, business-like way. Combative spirit, ready for the defensive. Owning to the diplomatic and the fox-like qualities of the House of Libra. The querent may, by this card, attempt to steal the weapons of the opponent, as they figure rightly suggests, using the arguments and fighting with the weapons of the enemy. Tradition is rather elusive in its definitions of this card. There are some particulars of Libra indicated, curiously enough, but there are not much of the nature of swords. That is earth. The card must indicate everything in the line of material ability, from the science of the use of tools, crafts, and the arts, up to the tricks of abuse. It may equally favor labor, an engineer, a dentist, a surgeon, and a burglar. Engineers! Here's to the combat engineers. And here's this woman with bow-legged women. So the next is the Eight of Swords. And this picture has, there's a lot of sad shit going on in these sword cards. And it's interesting because it's all being tied to the material world, right? So a Gnostic would see a lot of sadness and misery here. Tradition, critical position, censure, crisis, chagrin, research, control, condemnation, judgment, sickness, reversed its difficulty, obstacles, accident, treachery, fatality, adventure, etc. The element of earth on the eighth house, the house of death, and of the greatest difficulties lie the inner problems and sex. The image drawn on this card may well indicate the blindness of man amidst the dangers of the world and of his own desire or nature. It must indicate the physical sex nature above all. Further, we shall find everything relating to the revenge of matter upon spirit, the latter being bound and blinded by the former. Consequently, everything in the nature of obstacles and hindrances, pain and affliction, the house of avenging justice, may well cause condemnation, or a sickness, which is the result of sinning against nature's laws. Patience is required where this card rules, and endurance will save the position. In its most general sense, it means the blinding of laws of matter, suffering from the lack of money, amen, impotence by debt and material want, poverty. It may be the great strain on feelings, as the eight of each suit is accepted as indicating some feminine influence to which we are ready to subscribe. There will be a danger from the accusative girl or uncouth female here. or even sickness through the same, as far as material laws are compelling in this world. There must be, of course, a fatality in this card, or at least something from which there will be no physical escape. This card is super interesting. Huh. Poor girl. The nine of swords. Bachelor, priest, clergyman, hermit, monastic order, monastery, church, religion, cult, devotion, rite, ritual, ceremony. Yeah. Reversed its justified doubt, fear, mistrust, scruple, shame, imprisonment, timidity. All right, let's see. The house of Sagittarius, the ninth, the element of earth, must, of course, relate to the earthly side of religion, the material expression of it, the more heavy, earthy, materialistic mind and its ideas about religion, ethics, etc. It is not very flattering for priesthood in general. Perhaps that from this sort of condition have come so many of those who call themselves ecclesiastics. But still it is natural, because ecclesia, which has been built upon the rock Petrus or Capricorn, is severed by the teachers or inspirers of it, to be found in the preceding house in a lay language. This means the expression of religion, of ideals, and of ideas descending into matter, taking material shape and culminating in the church or the monastery, which, however, come under the 10th house, into the dogma and the creed under the 9th. Under the latter's influence, there is representatives of dogma and creed. Priest, officiant, monastic, or monk. It is fairly sure that from the essence of this card arises inquisition and every sort of intolerance, religious intolerance above all, because of the materialistic mind thinks itself in possession of the only expression of truth. It condemns every other. So this card may also indicate all sorts of hard judgment, rigid attitudes of mind, orthodoxy, for this indeed is the meaning of all materialism in religion and ethics. When the material expression of truth, the ideas, is at its height, it reaches the value of rite and ritual and religious ceremony, which at its best stands in relation to dogmatism as the jewel to simple stones and dry sand. Oh, and here's another sad card. The 10 of Swords. The element of earth in the 10th house, Capricorn, of course, relates to authority and earthly might or power. And we do not see why this should be the only in a reversed position with regard to religion. This is the mother church. The materialization of dogma and creed in a building, a church, a chapel, a monastery. In a secular line, it may be an official building or an office, and relating to persons in official or public authority under the civil law. The card represents material necessity, and the limits and cornerstones which erects. It is ultimately the card of irrexible karmic results, say material karma itself. To the profane, this means very often affliction. To the personality, may be burdened by the weight of fate. The image of this card seems to suggest especially. On the other hand, tradition is certainly not wrong in stating that this may represent gain and profit, as the card of karma will bring the full measure of material things in general, and not only in the way of tragedy. Profit and advantage, however, may also become oppressive in its possibility and must be considered here. So, before I wrap up here, I just want to say that there's a PS here. It says the cards of the suit of swords from the ace up to the 10 relate to respective sins prohibited by the 10 commandments. And I don't know about that. I'm going to have to look at that. It's intriguing. It is intriguing. But I'm an Old Testament guy, and I'm looking at these things, and I'm like, I don't know. Besides there being 10 cards and 10 commandments, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. You know what I'm saying? All right, hey, I've been John Towers, and this has been the Abercast, and thank you guys very much. And I'm out of here. Hey guys, it's John. I just wanted to remind you to check out the American Sermon. It's a limited series podcast. This is the last month. It's ending, where we're talking about the occult foundations of the United States. If you like the show, you'll definitely like that. So check her out wherever for most places you can find podcasts. And if you're interested in supporting the show, please head over to Subscribestar. It's subscribestar.com/Abercast, and it's a Patreon alternative in the fact of the techno censorship over there at Patreon. We went ahead and we got out of Dodge, and we're over at Subscribestar now. Subscribestar.com/Abercast. Give it a check out. Get over there, check out our tiers and shit. Don't forget to go to abercast.com. Social media links are there. Sign into the mailing list for some bonus content. The website also has a featured topic link, so you can just search whatever you're interested in and find all the shows pertaining to that right there. It's pretty nifty. And don't forget to check out the Abercast Facebook page. I'm pretty sure it's just facebook.com/theabercast. So, yep, that's it.